I've been walking on a tightrope between life and death. Witnessing ghostly parts of me that need to die for the fullness of my light to come to life. And I've been feeling how truly easy and beautiful and simple and graceful it would and will be if I would just let go. If certain old patterns rooted in my wounds, in my avoidance, in my betrayals, in my pain, if I could just simply let them go. And choose them out of existence. Then all would resolve itself. The question is how? When the patterns cling so tightly to the parts of me that are most vulnerable, to the parts of me that are most afraid, to the parts of me that are weakest, so that no matter how strongly I invoke the force of my will, how deeply I pray, how poetically I tell myself of the magnificence of the life to come, the patterns and the ghosts still manage to creep back in. And it can get a bit frustrating. And I've found myself in the past few days, pelicans. Feeling a bit of an angry child within me that wants to throw a bit of a tantrum and stomp his feet. Like, my goodness, I am putting in so much work, and I've been trying so hard, and I've been doing many of the things, not all the things. And yet certain aspects of my reality which are very difficult to tolerate, still persist. And they hurt. And they drag me down, and they feel dense. And they feel like anchors into false timelines. And they feel like energy leaks where my boundaries are not strong enough. In one of my videos, I spoke of a homeless man that came and shook up my energy field. This kind of happened to me again at one of the farmers markets. where these people with extremely dark energy just decided to like come set up right next to me in my booth, my typewriter spot. And there's a little bit of a script in my mind. It's like, why me? Why does this keep happening? Why do I attract these things? And that script is very whiny and complaining and avoidant of its own responsibility in having cultivated and created such circumstances. Because while that voice was alive, there was very little recognition of the fact that I was fully empowered to just get up and walk away and go to a different spot. But I chose to sit there and try to repel. So that's neither here nor there. When the fact, my goodness, the pelicans. The fact is that I lived many years in San Diego as a ghost, as a zombie, as the kind of being that was inviting dark entities into his vessel, into his field, into his body, into his being. So that when I see people like this, when I encounter them out in the field, in the world, when I interact with them, I'm just seeing old parts of myself. Old ghosts. And simultaneously, I'm seeing how there is still a core wound and pain of purgatorial purposelessness that still keeps me in my current form in at least a little bit of resonance with these beings. As much as I hate to say that, I really don't like saying that. Parts of me that feel like I still have to betray myself in order to get money so I can eat and live and cling to certain scarcity patterns which are very comfortably nestled within my body and which require deeper confrontations of my deepest fears to be fully transmuted and alchemized and shed into my transformation. I had a video where I talked about, I think my last video, how the cops came to this one market and I had a bit of a disagreement with them, a microcosmic war with them, where I don't really want to fight. I just want to be in the abundance of my art and of my soul. Wherein I realized that in that moment there was some part of me that wanted to pick that fight. That the Neo in me was still fighting the Agent Smith, when really there's no fighting to be had. And in the same way, Just like I'm speaking of these ghostly energies and these scarcity patterns and these forms of lack that are clinging to me, so too am I clinging to them. So too am I holding on to them, like as if I was in need of them for my sense of identity, for my sense of purpose, as if I need something to fight in order to get from point A to point B, in order to survive, in order to live, in order to thrive, in order to have meaning in my existence. And if I'm going to aggrandize this, if that's how you pronounce that, to the macrocosmic scale of the universality of the question of good and evil, it seems this is a microcosmic embodiment of that, where I am so focused on the evils of this world and I define myself against them in a way that feeds them my power and my essence. I cling to them in as much as they cling to me, and they cling to me in as much as I cling to them. It's a yin and yang relationship. It is the Ouroboros consuming its own tail. Now, a code that has been coming through of late is that the Ouroboros becomes a dragon when it stops eating its own tail. Multiplicitous meaning, which I'll let you figure out for now. So that perhaps it's time to let go and to stop consuming my own tail and to stop obsessing with all of the evil and the deceit and the uncomfortabilities and the fears. And to truly and more fully root myself within the infinitude of my breath, woven into my prayer and into my writing. To let go of what it has to look like, to let go of the obstacles which I tell myself stand in the way, and to just dissolve it all into breath. I'm saying all these things, and they're going to be useful, hopefully for you as much as they will be for me. And there's still this question of, okay, how? What? How? Like, okay, that sounds nice. The illusory nature of these material wants and needs and patterns. How do I embody fully the knowledge of their illusory nature into my experiential being? There are two parts of me. One part of me that wants it to be instantaneous, that wants all of the dissolution to just happen, all of my pains, all of my patterns, all of the evil, all of the bullshit, all of the difficulty, all of the challenges. I want them all to just dissolve, for there to be an ultimate breakthrough. Above all, for this aching pain that I have from my collarbone reaching into my heart to disappear, to melt into the warm and loving breath of God. Whereas the second part of me knows that healing is a slow process. And that I am reversing 7 years of cultivated trauma and pain. So perhaps it can be instantaneous. Perhaps there can be a miraculous dissolution. But perhaps the feeling of every single pain and every single layer and every single mirror which reality offers to me in the form of homeless guys giving me bad vibes at markets, in the form of other parts of my life which come and challenge me. Every single part is part of the process, and in fact, as a part of God's omnipresent will and omnipotent will, is written by God, by God's perfection, and is thus perfect, perfectly beautiful. Does that mean I'm going to invite the homeless man into my house? No. I am still going to fight. I don't know if that's right. I am still going to cultivate my sovereignty and my freedom and defend it when it feels infringed upon, when it feels like my boundaries are being pushed. But somehow the invitation is to allow myself to perceive God's perfection in all of it. In the most painful aspects, in the darkest aspects, in the most difficult aspects. And in the aspects where I perceive the devil himself. To witness how every time God allows the devil into my life, it is an invitation from God to say no to the devil and to say yes to God. With reality being constituted of choice points and reality bifurcations, so that every time that I say no to the devil, or to evil, or to self-betrayal, or to deceit, then a false reality dissolves and is healed to be restored and bring realignment with truth and God. none of this was necessarily what I came here to talk about. There's two more things I want to say. Today I encountered a pelican, a dead pelican. I was walking right here along this beach, and I looked right here because the pelican's right here. And over there, I just looked this way, and my whole body just felt intuitively like, oh, I need to just walk over there. It's like of its own will. I needed to be pulled over here. Wordless, silent, just instinct, intuition, divine guidance. And here was the pelican, which I covered in flowers. And here are some lilacs, which were part of today's journey, and I'm so enamored with them. The pelican is a symbol of many things, including persistence. The pelican travels thousands of miles. And it travels these miles wing by wing, flight by flight, step by step. And these are long journeys. Wow, beautiful. But with the support of its tribe and of taking the form of the arrow, the pelican persists on the long and difficult journey and makes it through. And every storm, every wind, every cloud, every challenge is faced. And the pelican eventually makes it. Now, not this one, because this one had a sacrificial offering and message and transmission to offer on behalf of God and Goddess. The arrow is something I hadn't thought of today. The arrow has been a central theme of this year. It was on my vision board. It's my Sagittarian arrow. I was writing about it last night. The arrow of my purpose, which is my way out of the purgatory. And what I was actually initially going to come and talk about on this video was how I've been witnessing how I'm purposeless in my life and how my purpose really needs to be decided. I need to choose my purpose and aim my arrow, so that the pelican is here to speak on this. So perhaps I'll touch on that after this. But I also wanted to mention that the pelican in Christianity was a symbol of Christ. And the mother pelican at that. The mother pelican pecked her own essentially tore her own chest open and fed her organs to her chicks so that they could survive, which resembles Christ's dying on the cross, the ultimate sacrifice for his children, so that we may live in eternity, free from sin. I'm holding this like a microphone for some reason. So that this pelican that is just to my right over here, covered in flowers, is also Christ and God speaking to me of the arrow of my purpose, which I need to aim with greater refinement, with greater flame, with greater clarity, with greater brightness. Because all of the ghosts and all of the ghostly energies and all of the deaths and all of the purgatories and all of the voids and the avoidance, they come fundamentally from a purposelessness. So that the arrow and the eros of my purpose is my way out of the purposelessness and the prison and the purgatory into my prayer embodied, into deeper union with God, into deeper union with my heart and my soul, into deeper union with my mission, something that's been alive in me as of late, is that while it's beautiful that I make my living writing poems, and I have all of these little poetic arrows flying about, which are microcosmic instantiations of my purposeful will, they still feel small, and the arrows are dull and a little bit dim. Whereas I want to shoot one grand Sagittarian arrow that is sharp and clear and bright. So recognizing that every single little arrow co-constitutes the grand arrow and guides me to it. And every single time that I aim, then my aim is refined and the direction of the grand arrow reveals itself. And then I fly like a pelican towards my destination. And I even dive down into the ocean at lightning speeds. To nourish myself from the womb, so to speak. From the infinite abundance of the earth, aligned with God. And then seamlessly become who I am, flying through the sky as an arrow and a pelican, free of ghosts, free of all the realms of death, free of all the impediments and the evils and the deceit of this world. Alignment with the divine through the aiming of my Sagittarian arrow. Yeah, I feel like I've been talking a long time. I'm going to leave it at that for now. It's been a bit difficult to record videos every day, so I pray for patience from anyone who is deeply interested and invested in my videos. I am making efforts to put more energy into them, but my energy also has been going into other things, alive and dead. So, trusting the process and the flow. Any last things? I could use financial support. If you would like a custom poem, donation-based, send me a message on Instagram, astrotheosis. It's in the link in the description, or it's not a link in the description. Yeah. And my poetic offerings, irrespective of if you get one or not, are deeply medicinal. People come to me for guidance. They somehow know that I have oracular powers and they come to me with like, I have this going on in my life, can you help? And then I write them a poem and they're like, wow, thank you. So if you have something like that, I'm happy to be of service, also with one-on-one calls. A part of this purposelessness being alchemized into my purpose is I'm realizing that I feel small doing the poetry. And with this YouTube channel, the intention of the YouTube channel is to eventually discover my purpose, the gift that I truly want to offer seamlessly to the world and to the people in a way that becomes more quote-unquote professional, though I'm not really a fan of that word. But my grand mission, so that right now I am praying that in. Which means I am praying in ways that I can refine my offerings to you guys, whoever's watching this. And I'm speaking both of unpaid and paid. Unpaid being just like continue to post, but to have a clearer direction on what my videos are about, because they're still a little bit scattered on my journey. I'm like, oh, today I'm here, blah, blah, blah. To have like a telos, teleology. Look that word up, T-E-L-O-S. And then offerings that can be more like investments, where I can step into my inner philosopher teacher. Anyway, I won't force any of that. I'm just speaking it into existence right now. That this month of May is embodying that prayer of discovering what that purpose is and what these offerings are going to look like. That's it. The final thing I'll say, earlier I was walking and I said out loud, I want some lilacs. I want a beautiful lilac tree in bloom because I love lilacs. And there are no lilacs in San Diego. But I just went on a really long, beautiful, aimless walk. And I walked by the flower store. And I look into it, and there is a bucket full of lilacs. So that I am reminding myself, as well as you, of the infinite power of the Word and of our prayers to literally come to life and guide the magnetism of the omnipresent will of God's enmeshment with our own wills to guide us into the actualizations of our purpose and our prayer and the magic of flowers in bloom. It is springtime, it is Beltane, we celebrate the life and the love of flowers, the time of resurrection. So with that, may the rest of your month of May and your spring come into a deep bloom within your heart. Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.